Hello, and apologies around the technical difficulties around the webinar at the start. But my name is Cillian, and I am the Development Officer with Mental Health Ireland, covering Clare, Limerick, and North Tipperary. And you're all very welcome to this webinar this afternoon on the topic of men's health, supporting men to live well. So thanks for joining us, because it's going to be a great discussion exploring what it means for men to live well emotionally, mentally, and physically. So we'll discuss common challenges and share practical tools for maintaining good health in everyday life. So there is plenty of time for discussion throughout, because at the bottom of your screen there is a Q&A button which you can input questions or comments throughout, and hopefully we'll be able to get to some of the questions for the panel throughout the webinar. So with that, there is going to be, I suppose 2 weeks ago there was Men's Health Week. So the purpose of this webinar was just to continue that conversation around men's health, and to be able to have those conversations that we can continue on supporting and helping and raising awareness around men's health. So that's the purpose today of the webinar. Bit of housekeeping as well. The webinar should be around an hour long, and with the discussion questions, the Q&A, hopefully we'll be able to get to all of them throughout the webinar. And this webinar will also be recorded for the Mental Health Ireland website page as well. So yeah, I'm just going to stop the share and invite my panelists to say hello. So we're back again. So thanks, Conor, if you want to say hello and introduce yourself, and Bill as well. So Conor, I'll start with yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. My name is Conor Geoghegan. I'm the National Development Manager for the community with Mental Health Ireland. I'm here about a year and happy to be here today. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Conor. Bill, we'll go to yourself.
Hello, Cillian. Thanks for having me, and hello to everyone else in the webinar, and Conor here. I am Development Officer with Mental Health Ireland, and I am up in the northwest in County Donegal. I've been with Mental Health Ireland for over 10 years now, promoting mental health and wellbeing and signposting to services, appropriate services when needed.
Brilliant. Great to have you both here. So it's going to be a great discussion. So I'll kick off with the first question. So what does living well mean to you? Conor, I might start with yourself, if that's all right.
Yes, thanks, Cillian. Well, living well means a lot of things, I suppose, but for me, it's about been the pursuit of happiness, or being happy in general in my well-being, both emotionally and physically. What that means really for me is to include exercise and to include diet, etc., into my daily routine. I haven't always been great at following exercise and diet. I am 55 years old now, with a youngish family for my age, a 16-year-old son and an 11-year-old daughter, and a wife that goes to the gym 5 times a week. So they're all spurring me on to do some exercise, which I've done in more definitely. And since I've joined Mental Health Ireland, I've been happy to follow the 5 ways to wellbeing on a regular basis, and live my life by it. But so for me, living well, ensuring that you prioritize yourself. In many years, I wouldn't have prioritized myself. I would have worked in services like homeless services, where I was in with DePaul for 18 years, where I would have managed homeless hostels and carried a lot of the stresses of the job home, and then had a young family at the time. So it built up a lot of stress over the years. So living well for me is really getting into routine, I suppose. A routine sleep, routine good food, good diet. I like to have a good work-life balance. I think that's extremely important in today's world, and we all have very busy lives, and we all give it our all at work. But it's as only as important as your home life, and your well-being. If you're not feeling well yourself, so you're no good to anyone else really, until you look after yourself first. So well-being for me is to know the signs when stress are coming, or any triggers that may make you feel not so good about yourself, and put in some things to do to counteract that. And for me, it's my exercise is walks. And a man at 55, I did play soccer and I did coach teams for many years, but I find walking for me is where I find that I get I feel best out of. I'm not a jogger. I don't go to the gym. But what I'll do is I'll go for 3 good walks a week, and that's for about 9-10 kilometers a week. And then 3 other days a week, I'll go for smaller walks. But it's keeping the consistency of it. So well-being, living well, Cillian. It's holistic. It's keeping everybody, it's keeping family, work, and friends around, and making sure that you're well connected. So that's where I'm at.
That's lovely, Conor. I really like that. I suppose it's the holistic and the self-care piece. There's different pillars to it as well that you can kind of do on a daily basis, like the walks and whatever else you're saying, and just connecting with family and just have that work-life balance. I really like, and that's really important to minimize stress as well. So thanks. There's a lot in that. So thanks for sharing that. That's brilliant. So Bill, would you have any thoughts on living well? What does it mean to you? Thank you.
Yeah. I would agree a lot with what Conor was saying there. And it's it's very much kind of down to each of us to define for ourselves. I think that's the most important thing. We hear more about living well publicly on television now, and we're more health conscious that way. Conor mentioned going to gyms and stuff like that. I would agree. Back in my time, there wasn't too many men were interested in going to gyms or that. There wasn't too many gyms about. Every second street has a gym now. If you're going to the bigger cities, and so does that say we're just more body conscious or whatever? I'm not too sure, but definitely getting exercise is better for us, and I think even more so as we get older. With regards flexibility and muscle tone, and that just is beneficial for our balance, and is more likely to prevent falls as we get older. So there's the benefit of that. Conor also mentioned there the 5 ways to wellness. That is, most of that people know anyway. The sensible things, be mindful, get exercise. You could add eat well. I know it's not one of the 5, but it's becoming more prominent now with people to think about more what they eat. So the common sense is a lot to do with living well, but I think in the world we're living in now, it's more of a challenge to have that common sense, because well, if you look at our lifestyles now, in general, it's much more sedentary. There are people working in front of computers all day, which you wouldn't have had that 2 generations ago. Then when we come home, it's television or PlayStations, or there's just phones now, tablets, distractions. Where I remember growing up at in estates around the town, it'd be football every night in the street, or if they were lucky enough to have a green, it'd be all out there. So you were getting exercise, but it's not that you were thinking, oh, I must go down and play football with all the others in the estate to get exercise. You just wanted to. You loved it because there was no other. That was the main form of distraction. Whereas now, you have to go looking for the exercise. You have to go looking for healthy food, as opposed to the easier option, the processed food. So living well is more of a challenge now, I think, because of these factors. What we used to think of as convenience, convenience food and things like that. Now we're starting to realize, well, hold on, it's putting a big dent into our well-being, and we need to look at that. Walking now, people are out walking. If you go into Letterkenny here in the evening, you're seeing groups of people walking all over the place. I would be in a running club here on a Monday. It's called Fit for Life, and it was an initiative by the local Letterkenny Athletic Club, and it was targeted at people who either have stopped running or are getting a bit older and thinking, well, it's too old to be in a running group. And it's great. We have about 70 people doing it every week. So initiatives like that are great for keeping well. Personally, what else do I find keeps me well? Meditation. I do a bit of meditation. I would like to say I do it every day, but I don't. But I would do it as often as I could. Journaling. I like a bit of journaling just to get kind of half the rubbish that's going on in my head out on paper. So, I'm more likely to know it's a pile of rubbish out on paper. Whereas if you leave it in the head, it's festering and making me feel miserable or stressed or whatever. So there'd be some of the things I think are factors to think about in relation to mental health or well-being.
That's brilliant, Bill. Lots in that as well. So what I captured from it, even I suppose around the 5 ways to well-being, it's that reminder. Like you're right, we probably do all this stuff to connect, be active, take notice, learn, and give on a daily, weekly basis. But it's just being reminded of it a lot more, just to make sure that we are connecting with people or connecting with ourselves. And yeah, because even what you were mentioning around the stretching and the flexibility side of things, I'm more conscious of that now the last number of years, really, because it's just so important to be able to move freely and not have back pain or whatever it may be, just to be able to be amble and flexible, which is really important. And I like the group that you're in as well, the runner group. So it's a nice thing to do as well for yourself and your well-being. So that's brilliant. So the next question I'm going to throw out to the panel, and Conor, I might go to yourself on this one, is what are some of the common barriers that prevent men from prioritizing their health and well-being?
Yeah, there's many barriers, but I suppose it's been able to prioritize yourself. I think a lot of men would take on the whole mantle of looking after the family, looking after their friends, and that kind of stuff, and then so they may not prioritize their own health first. And I kind of alluded to that at the start. I would have done that for many years, but it's back to that thing that if you don't look after yourself, sure, you're not great at looking after other people. So it's that. For many years, I would have put exercise off on the long fingers. It's easier this time of year to get out and about, but when you hit November, December, January, the dark evenings, to get out there and push yourself, it's tough, and that's why it's important, in my opinion, to have a routine. And no matter what's happening at this time, this is what I do. So I believe that obviously one of the main barriers, and it's been there for many years, is that men don't talk as much as women would, and that's not that's proven more than just coming from me. That I be careful what I say. I work with more women than men, but in that, men have that whole thing about if you talk, sure, they might be seen and deemed as a sign of weakness, or it might be it's not the way men initially in my age group, my generation, were asked to talk. So however, over the years and me working in social services for many years, I know the importance of that. But I suppose it's one of the barriers. It's a clear identity of what's expected of men in society. Like it's constantly changing. So Bill alluded there to all the gyms that are available now, and it could be about body consciousness or more than anything else. But I know my 16-year-old son, just to talk about barriers. He when he was younger, sadly my mother passed with COVID, and then there was all that time off, and he was at an age, but he wasn't in a good place at the age of 11. But and if I had been in that stage when I was 11, I would never, my father would never said, I think you should go and have some counselling. But I did, because I worked in homeless services for years and suggested he get some counselling with regard. These were barriers that were in my generation. Now he did it. He learned some coping skills, and he did it for a year and a half, and all going well. He's doing well for it. But I had seen the benefits by working in homeless services for 18 years. advocating counselling for everybody and anyone. And it's about talking and listening, you know. And I don't think that one of the main barriers I feel, Cillian, for over years, I said, is men's fear of talking about it. It isn't really something that it was kind of take it on the chin, roll up the sleeves, and get on with it attitude, and it's part of life. However, that catches up unless you deal with it. And so, yeah, for me, it's in a nutshell. One of the main barriers is getting out there talking. We're all human. We all have our frailties. We all have times in our life where we need people and we need to connect, probably on a daily basis. And so, it's breaking down the old stereotypes of that men don't talk, and just really given the opportunities for men to talk, and given opportunities for men to feel it's important to talk. So that would be where I'm at.
That's lovely, Conor, and thanks for sharing that example with the council and your son as well, because I think it's a really important one, you know, to learn those coping skills and to build the resilience and to learn how to manage during difficulties as well. Because again, I think what you're talking about as well, about the fear of maybe men being able to talk about their feelings, emotions, but you just know how important it is to offload and clear the head, and having a trusted person or whoever it may be, a family friend, loved one, if it's a counsellor or whoever, a doctor, just to be able to offload what is going on in their head, because we can go down rabbit holes and kind of be overthinking, and then that gets us even more in a place that we wouldn't like to be. So, and I think Bill talked about journaling, and I do a lot of journaling myself, where I kind of offload what's on my mind onto paper if I don't have anyone to chat at that particular time. But I think talking and being able to sit with someone and for them to actively listen is just so important. And then not for anyone to try and fix, just to be there as a support and to be able to listen. So yeah, thanks, Conor. Thanks for your input on that. So yeah, so Bill, will I come to yourself just on some of the barriers? That'd be great. And again, just to pause as well, just for people that are attending, if you have any questions, the Q&A button is at the bottom, so please feel free to put in any questions and we'll try to get to them as well. So thanks a million.
Yeah, thanks, Cillian. I would say the biggest barrier that I would see is men themselves, you know, individually and as a group. As part of my job here, I go around talking to community groups, and what I've noticed over the years is if I'm going out, say, to do a talk on wellbeing, on average, there'll be 9 women to 1 man at the talks, and what that tells me, well, maybe it's just my style, not coming, but I would like to think it's nothing to do with the presentation, but it's more to do with that they hear a talk on mental health. Oh no, not for me. Not interested. And it ties in with the fact that there's still an element of the hunter-gatherer in men, and they are more comfortable doing stuff, being active, which is positive in a way, when talking about well-being, but they're very uncomfortable. And I know I'm speaking generally here. I'm not saying all men are like this, but they're very uncomfortable in the whole area of being and asking the big questions around mental health, and I would say philosophy too, as in, why am I here? Who am I? What's my purpose in life? Men shy away from that, and it kind of triggers off boredom, insecurity, maybe all the kind of things that they don't like to feel. So they would much rather be out kind of actively doing stuff, whether it's varied from digging turf to playing football, to, down having a discussion about, politics in the pub, whatever. But they, ask them to sit and have a good discussion around mental health and well-being, stuff like that. Most men will say thanks, but no thanks. So that'll be one thing. The pace of life at the minute, the demands from life. So I find it hard getting time to work on myself. And when I say work on myself, I mean on the being end of things. The activity, it's hard enough at times getting out to do the activities like running or, things like that. But to find time for journaling or meditation or stuff like that, it's even more of a challenge because you have the TV on in the other room, and that's always a temptation. You're home from work and you're kind of tired. You have dinner to get and things like that. So that they would be big barriers that I would see. Especially that whole idea of men are doers and not beers, and it's part for men. It actually feels a bit unnatural to start exploring the inner world. The thoughts, the feelings. How all that's our upbringing. What are our values? It nearly feels like a different language to a lot of men, which is a pity because they're missing out. They're missing out on a huge part of life, I think. So that would be the big barriers that I would see.
Really interesting, Bill. What you're talking about, the purpose, the being, the insecurity, and I think maybe put on a mask that things are okay when things are not, and then they're more, I suppose, trying to mask that by being active, by doing so much and trying to shy away from the problem. Is that kind of what you're kind of saying a little bit on what you're saying there a little bit?
Yeah. But it's and like when I started to get interested in mental health and started reading up on biographies of people maybe who struggle with mental health or maybe read a book on assertiveness, anything at all connected with health, the more I started getting into it, the more I began to realize how much of a connection there is between mental health and well-being and philosophy, and I found that fascinating in itself. Like for instance, the Aristotle and Socrates, one of those two, would be saying that the purpose of life is to get to know yourself. For all of us, that is the purpose in life. And if you think that's really kind of at the core of mental health and well-being, is to find your purpose in life, to find that kind of inner contentment, so you're able to not just deal with the good days. It's kind of easy enough. Anyone can deal with good days, but it's the tough days where you're called upon to start using the tools of mental health to just get through the day. That's where it's good to have an interest in wanting to find out, right, who am I? What's my purpose in life? And if I decide that none of this interests me, mental health, sure, why should I go down the road of mental health? I'm all right. There's nothing wrong with me. That's already kind of saying that I think mental health is what I think mental health is actually mental illness. And I'm saying, why would I want to know about mental illness? There's nothing wrong with me, so I don't need to know about any of this. So what I'm doing is I'm missing out on a huge factor about who I am. The whole journey of, as Socrates says, that's actually what I'm supposed to be doing, is finding out who I am and what's my purpose in life. And I think a lot of men then are missing out because that's not really instilled in men growing up, that that's so important. rather it's more just getting men ready to be the doer. Get a job, provide for the family. That's been the way right up until recently. I know the the what is a man now is has changed a bit now because we're more open, and there's not the same rigid rules of what a man should be, that alpha male type. Now we have a whole range of different uh, ideas of what a man is, which is very good and very healthy. But I still think, from a point of view of mental health and well-being, uh, being men are missing out on the being end of things.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thanks, Bill. I really like what you're saying. And it kind of leads on to the next question. I might come to Conor on this one because Bill, you've kind of discussed it a little bit in your response there. So, why do you think it's difficult for men to talk about their mental health? I know, Bill, you kind of touched on it a little bit. So, Conor, do you have any thoughts on it? Why do you think it's difficult? The
Yeah, but
barriers,
I
the stigma. Yeah. I'll leave it
don't
over to
think I
yourself.
can.
Thanks.
Yeah, no worries, Ken. I don't think I can speak as eloquent as Bill on it, but because I think very, very good how you just express, especially philosophy. The difficulties I see, and again, um, I would have my own experience working mental health, but also working in mental health in homeless services, really with addiction and mental health, and even my to Paul the last or they've just released this. I think that one in two people in homeless services have suicide ideation. It's that bad, and so the difficulty is the usual one. Back to the generations, as Bill outlined very well, is that we come from if men the difficult for them to talk and show emotion. It's a perceived sign of weakness. As when you're younger, the whole boys don't cry kind of attitude, and I grew up with songs like that, but 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 that kind of concept of if you fall and you hurt yourself, get on with it. You have a role in society which is not about talking and about emotions. It's about doing and getting it done kind of attitude. When I got this role for Mental Health Ireland, I was coaching one of the teams, and one of the other coaches was chatting to me, and he says, "Yeah, you got a new job?" And I said, "Yeah, with Mental Health Ireland." Now, this guy's a manager of a spa or something like that, and he came out with a saying, "Oh, I don't believe in mental health." I said, this is only about a year and a half ago, and again, is that a real statement that nobody? And I was trying to see, wondering why he said it, and maybe because he's an employer and people are taking days off now. I don't know, but how somebody can throw out a statement like that in today's world is crazy. But that it isn't. A lot of what Bill was saying, and he was say it again, is general. Everyone, there's a lot of individuals that have the ability to speak, but in general, the men would traditionally it's been the way it is, and it's been the way it's been portrayed in the media, it's been portrayed on television, and all of that. And if you were perceived as talking about your emotions, you're not really you're not really dealing with it. And the ironic thing is, after the years of study and evidence research, is you have to talk about it to deal with it, opposed to bottling it up, because it will manifest in different ways, and it could come out in anger. It could come out in feeling very depressed. It could come out in stress. It comes out though. If you bottle stuff up, I think in today's world we are much better. It's a more open world, and the difficulties are still going to be there. However, my generation, talking about my son the last time, I obviously like to talk, and I give space to talk. Um, and I find that one of the difficulties, I suppose, I know that the Men's Health Week, shoulder to shoulder, was the theme. That's a great way to talk to men, is to stand not in front of them, but I've found this, to sit beside him. I talk to my son, for example, best in the car, when you're not looking at him in the face, and you learn little tricks like that. But the difficulties, um, I'm a positive guy, so I believe that these kind of webinars and these there's ability for us to talk about this. We may have not have seen this 20, 30 years ago, but it is there. It's a realization that, back to Bill's theme, that we're all human, and that search for who we are. And a part of it is we're good at physically helping ourselves, but not mentally helping ourselves. And everybody has some type of, and I'd even say trauma in their life at some stage. Mental Health Ireland, we're a trauma informed organization, but I believe in that we all have something that we need to talk out. It's also good to be able to start the conversation other than waiting for others to do it if you have it in you, because I genuinely believe people want to talk. It may not be, men may be more one-to-one because they don't like to talk in groups as much. I got laughed out of it sometimes with my friends when I'd ask me, how are you? And I know I've gone back in our how are you campaign, but I would ask, how are you, in front of friends. And the other ones, get over yourself. We're here to talk about football and politics and whatever. So slowly, and I think we will. The difficulties are coming down. I also think that it's been difficult for men, and we could start a whole conversation on this to see. And I'm delighted because I have a daughter as well, of how the importance of women's voices in today's world has increased so much, even in my lifetime. But that may affect where men sit in the world and how they feel. It used to be, we were all men were the managers, women, and had their place and things. But like, I'm totally for equality, just to say, 100%. But the men have to find their space then in that, and be where they were traditionally brought up, but also be this new man in the new world. And it isn't easy, and none of us get it right all the time. But if you strive to it, and you strive to be open in yourself, and not feel like there is barriers in your life or that you are weak if you open up, or you're not showing any sign of weakness by being human and being yourself. We can go on with the world, but what you do need is a support group around you. There's nothing worse than somebody, a man who eventually decides to open up and discuss things and then gets shot down by people and stuff, because you may not do it again. So it's important to have spaces and to have close, good friends and good people around you that understand where you're at. That would be me, Cillian. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks, Conor. And I think you were saying earlier, like, the opportunity to be able to speak on this, and that is the beauty of these webinars, the work that Mental Health Ireland do as well, and the workshops we do in the community as well, is to, I suppose, engage men in workshops to be able to, I suppose, give tips and tools around well-being. And that's what I enjoy, is just trying to get men into workshops and seeing what the barriers are and how we can, I suppose, get through those barriers and be able to support them around mental health and well-being. So you had a lot in what you're saying, Conor, so it's brilliant. But I even tied on to, I suppose, the next question leads nicely on to, what role does society play in shaping how men look after themselves? So I don't know if you want to continue, or will I go to Bill?
I just throw in a few, and I won't go on.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think society really needs to break down that stigma. It needs to be, and I think it is. I think it's slowly but surely doing that. But mental health should be viewed the same as physical health. If something's not going well, go to your doctor, get referrals, and get yourself on some track to get well again as best you can. I think society needs to offer more recovery and treatment centres for people who aren't feeling really well at their time. And I say this more coming from the homeless services, I suppose. So I know that with Mental Health Ireland, we work a lot with recovery colleges. But for my time is, if somebody, there was always a window of change. And what we found, and that was with addiction and with mental health, and if somebody is in the midst of it all and say, I want to change, I want support, if they have to wait a month or 2 months for it, sure, you've missed it, and they're back to it. So it's important to have the services and resources there. The other things I'd say is just do what, like, when I know Mental Health Ireland work so much with men's sheds and other organizations like that. So I would encourage a lot of society, a lot of localities to offer men's specific walking groups, men's specific men's sheds, and to say that when you're talking isn't a weakness, it's a strength. I think, and I think I'll pass the bill on this one, but that for me is a big one in the sense that, as I said in the last one, it was a perceived weakness to talk about mental health, but ironically, I see it as a strength. It means that you're trying to heal yourself, you're trying to better where you're at, and then at the outcome at the end will be a stronger you and a stronger society. So with that, I'll hand back, Cillian, if that's okay.
Lovely. That's great, Conor. Thanks for that. Bill, would you have any thoughts just on the role society plays in shaping how men look after themselves? Thanks a million.
Society, right? Well, kind of, I would kind of think if I split it up a bit, the government, or politics, I'm not into politics of that, but I think they could prioritize health and well-being a bit more all over, but that would include men's health. I know Ireland we were the first to have a men's health policy, first country in the world. So we're kind of one of the forerunners of highlighting men's health. But in a few areas, one would be the young men, teenagers and down, particularly say 15 and below. I would like to see society focus more on bringing back childhood to that age group and being much more responsible with technology, like phones, media, what goes on television, because I think a lot of that is unsuitable. And there's, the young people now are well clued in and they can get whatever they want on the phone. And there's very little of trying to block stuff on phones or apps, using apps to block things. You don't hear even much debate about that now. And that is impinging on the stress levels, the mental health of young men growing up. It has to be, and because it's relatively new, all this technology, there's not, we're only starting to see evidence of that, but common sense would tell you it has to have certain effect. Even I would hear on local radio on the news, and this would be at a time in the morning where there's kids in the back of cars going to school, and very inappropriate news items, crimes committed, assaults committed. I'm going into needless detail. That's impacting on young people's health. So that'd be one area I would like to see society. I would like to see society prioritize health and in-health more. So we have systems like hospitals, health systems, community services that are far better, far better resourced and better quality. It's very hard for people working in these sectors that don't have that, and then that filters down. It affects the health and well-being of people using the services. And then from that there, I would like to see a more healthy distribution of wealth. There's, inequality. If you look at our country now, the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. And that is affecting the health and well-being of men. If you look at suicide rates, if you look at poverty, if you look at other health issues like heart-related disease, stress-related disease, if you look at the what do you call it, the how long men live. It's it's less in poor areas than it is in more wealthy areas, and that really bugs me at times. You know, and the sad thing is, it's out, it's stuff that's out of their control. So if I grow up in a poverty area, or if I grow up in a traveling travelers community, uh, I am I'm not getting the same advantage. It's not a level playing field, and that's not being addressed. It's getting worse. As I say, the rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer. So that's something that society well, not would need to. It's either going to happen or it's not, but I would love to see it happen. So that's my gripe
Great.
for the day.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks a million. Lots in that again, and I think the question I was going to ask, and I might come to you, Conor, if that's all right. I know we're coming close to 3 o'clock, but we had a few technical difficulties. But I'm happy to keep going with a couple more questions before we finish up, if that's all right. And if there's any questions from people attending, please do in the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. So do you feel there's enough information and support around men's health at the moment? And yeah, I suppose that's the question I'll throw out to you. Do you feel there's enough out there at the moment, or is there more needs to be done?
There's always more to be done. I believe, Cillian, but I think it's getting better. I suppose in the world that myself, yourself, and Bill live in, where we're regularly promoting health and mental health, obviously. So I see a lot of it, but yeah, the no, you do see it on me. It's good to talk. You hear all these kind of social media campaigns and time to switch off from your work and all this. So there is, Bill alluded there, and something that really it's a different generation is the social media aspect of the world at the moment. I remember being a young guy and thinking, gosh, my dad hasn't a clue about anything else. How does he not know this? And then it'll come around, and it does. It comes around to your own age, and you go, oh my gosh, so trying to catch up is very difficult. Trying to look at programs, that program that was on that everyone know about the teenagers, and the one that was very prominent at the time. I'm forgetting the name at the moment, but yeah, I think there are supports. I think I don't know if young men still talk to young men like the way we described it. Are they open about it, or are they not? Because there is this perceived that, like we talked about earlier, men need to be strong and all that. But I don't think they talk like even like they used to. Like if they're talking over social media. So I think there needs to be those supports in place that Bill mentioned. And those days also that Bill mentioned, the days where you just play football all the time, you'd have your chats there, and and it was a way for other men, for men to kind of, when you're playing sports, and you have a bit of built up tension, you might take it out in a few tackles, or catching the ball or whatever, and that was a way of dealing with stuff at the time. But today, obviously, on that theme, the supports are there from people like the GAA. And again, I'm putting it, with Mental Health Ireland, again, we've noticed that, and we work a lot with the GAA and wellbeing teams as well to put wellbeing boards into the clubs, and we're trying to promote that nationally now. We worked a lot in Leinster with that, and and we're also we're identifying, these are aimed at men and women, but specifically we're discussing men today, and also we're putting well-being boards into marts, and we haven't really discussed rural Ireland as well, and farming, and the difficult, and the issues that loneliness brings to our mental health. Ireland's the loneliest country per capita in Europe, and I know that from my alone days, but it's true. So the supports, and for me, that's backed up by less people going to the mass or the church as they used to, and the pubs. It's great people aren't drink driving, but it's also not great that people can't get out to socialize with other people. So for me, the supports are getting better. However, the one we need to tackle is the social media supports. I don't think they're there where they should be. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks, Conor. Yeah, I definitely agree on social media. There's definitely work needs to be done around the support and just around it, really, in general, the usage of it as well in different age groups as well. So that's brilliant. We have some questions and comments in the Q&A button, so I might just go to them if that's all right, just to capture them for Bill and Conor. So there's a question in here. I'm hoping to start a group in the office for a forum for men's health and mental health. Do you have advice for setting up this platform, or are there any services available for workshops from Mental Health Ireland they can provide the corporate sector? So yes, we would do workshops for the corporate sector, and I will have a slide at the end if you stay to the end just on the type of workshops that we do have. But you can email me and I can give you more information as well. It's Cillian at mentalhealthireland.ie as well, and I can liaise with you that way as well if you'd like, just to find more information on our workshops around the corporate sector. So hopefully that answers that. And then another comment then is, thanks so much, and a question, thanks so much to the panel, brilliant conversation. In respect to future generations of young men, do the panel feel that there is enough positive role models in society encouraging these young men to prioritize their health and well-being? If not, what can we do about it? Bill, I'll go to yourself first. That'd be okay?
Yeah, I would say there is enough positive role models out there, but unfortunately they don't get as much attention as the negative role models. The negative role models to make the news, like, I don't know, that fellow Andrew something, is it? He's on an influencer
Tate.
on the web.
Tate. Is it Andrew Tate?
Andrew Tate, yeah, because just the way the if you negativity travels faster than positivity, unfortunately. But thank God, there are plenty of good role models out there in every field, and it's important to go looking for them. Don't just go by what you hear on the news or stuff like that, because you just hear sensationalism or negativity. But if locally within kind of local clubs, or people doing community work, that kind of stuff there is inspirational and doesn't get half the recognition that it should. Then with as I would say, people well known on the television and that. I was at a talk this morning just to kind of say about positive role models. There was like the ego and descriptive words to do with the ego, angry, negative, blah, blah, blah. And then the other side was the heart, and words associated with the heart of the soul. That was giving, caring, calm, all this kind of stuff. There was about 10 descriptions on each side. So I was saying to the group, think about the positive, think about the soul, the heart, that list there. I said, because I can think of someone, and someone well known, someone famous, but I'm interested to see would any of you pick the person. And so they were all sitting looking at this. There was actually about 14 men and 3 women in the group, which goes against the stats I talked about earlier on, I know. But I was sure no one was going to get it. Next thing, one of the lads, David Attenborough, and that's who I had thought of, and he is one big shining example of role model. But in every field, you'll get some people who just stand out because of not only just what they do, but they're being, and it's inspirational to actually find those people and kind of just study them and think, right, well, what could I learn from this person? So that's me.
Brilliant. Thanks, Bill. Conor, do you want to add anything, or even to add to the question around the men's health and mental health forum in the Q&A button, just on the corporate workshops? Do you want to add anything to that, or even the role model question, either or?
Just a brief one on the role model, because I think Bill answered it really well. I, I think you go looking for role models where you're at in your life. If unfortunately, Bill mentioned the negative, like with Andrew Tate, but and so if you're not feeling well, you might go looking for these type and have the negative role models in your life. Are there enough role models? I believe so. I would say that we're living in a world that with wars in America, and you have to be careful, and Trump and all this kind of stuff, where there's so many negative role models in the world. I am a positive guy in the sense that I would like to believe that there's going to be a good positive fallback from all this, and people can only take so much negativity, so much badness, and I think that it's going to develop a whole list of people who are going to go, this is so wrong, Gaza's so wrong. I don't want to be too political here, but we're witnessing too many wrongs in the world now that it's going to build up people to say, let's do something worth, good for people. And so I'd suggest there's going to be a lot more positive role models out there, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Lovely. Thanks a million, Conor. Before I share, we'll wrap up, I suppose. But before we do, I just want to share that, I suppose, slide just on the different type of workshops that we have. Bill, do you want to come in there?
Could I just come in, Cillian?
Yeah.
The question that you answered about setting up a men's group.
Yeah. Do you want to go for it? Yeah.
Just to add to that, I would say to try to get a commitment from a few people that will be there all the time, a core group, for the first few months, I think is very important. I would attend Grow, which is a group for people with mental health issues, and that's what they always say with that, is if they're setting up a new group somewhere, they will have a core group of men or women that will attend that until it gets momentum and up and running and more people, and then they'll can pull away and go back to their own group. And I think that's even more important if it's a men's forum group that they're setting up. Just to say that.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for that, Bill. Much appreciated. Just one final question to Conor and Bill. Is there one piece of advice that you can give for around men's health, or any steps that a person can do around their men's health to improve or enhance? What would it be? So Conor, I'll go with yourself, throwing it straight over to yourself.
I'm going to be cliched in this, and I kind of alluded at the start that I wasn't looking after my mental health as much until I joined Mental Health Ireland, and so I kind of lived the 5 ways to wellbeing, and it is the piece that really has gotten so, it's got me that inspiration to get out and be active. I suppose that was my part that I was lacking a bit. Like, and then it kind of gives, when you do it, when you're being active and getting out, you are connecting. You are, I'm lucky where I live. There's some water here and some trees, so I do take notice of what's going on around me. I wouldn't have done this until it was formulated into a program. The keep learning part for me would be, I love my music, so I try to when I'm walking and there's just traffic around, I try to listen to a new song of somebody I knew before. So that's something new all the time. But I know that we're at Mental Health Ireland kind of with West Aries. It's a webinar here today, but I would promote it for anyone who hasn't. Have a look at the 5 ways to wellbeing and try and incorporate it into your daily life. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks a million, Conor. And Bill, yourself.
I'm going to go eclectic here. If anyone ever saw the film City Slickers, There's a brilliant scene in that, and it's so related to what we're talking about here in mental health. And Billy Crystal's life isn't a mess. He's all stressed up, and Jack Palance, the old cowboy's riding beside him, and he listens to all the kind of stress and complaints and worries that Billy Crystal has, and he stops. He holds up the horse, and he says to him, "Listen," he says, "there's only one thing you need to know for to get happiness in life." So Billy Crystal's kind of waiting for the answer. He said, yeah, well, what is it?" And he said, "That's for you to find out." And I think that's mental health. You know, it's people will appreciate it far, far more when they get it themselves rather than being told. Because and that's the recovery model, is that strong belief that we have the answers in ourselves, and certainly other people can help us with trying to find the answers, but it's us that knows down deep what the answers are anyway. It's just we've lost them, and that's what I would say. That's for you to find out.
That's brilliant, Bill. Thanks a million for that. And I think it's a very nice way to end the webinar, because again, it's just digging deeper, finding out the answers and asking ourselves questions around mental health and or men's health or in general. So that's brilliant. I'm just gonna, Conor, do you want to add anything? I'm just gonna get up the slides there. All good. 2 seconds, we'll just get the share. 2 seconds now. Share this one. So hopefully, let me know you can see the slide here. I'm just going to get up. Yeah, all good. Yeah, you can see it. Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Conor and Bill. So this is just some of our workshops. They have been revamped over the last number of months. So it's great that we have a nice collection of step 1, step 2, and step 3. So the first one, step 1, is engage with mental health, an introduction to mental health and well-being, and the 5 ways to well-being model. So Conor and Bill were chatting about the 5 ways to well-being. So that's some of the workshop objectives just there on the left-hand side of the screen. And I suppose myself and Bill, who cover different areas. I'd be the Midwest region, Clare, Limerick, and North Tipperary, and Bill is in Donegal. But we have other development officers all around nationally as well. So I suppose if you want to inquire, you can inquire through Mental Health Ireland through the website, or even my website, or my email is Cillian@mentalhealthireland.ie. Or Bill, you're just Bill at mentalhealthireland.ie as well, isn't it? And Conor as well, Conor G at mentalhealthireland.ie. Is that right, Conor?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So any questions in the follow-up, if you are interested in any workshops, we can signpost you to the particular development officer in the region that's close to you as well. So step 2 then would be expand your well-being toolkit, a deeper understanding of mental health, well-being, and stress management. And then the third one is it's not ready yet, but it's talk about what matters, navigating meaningful conversations around mental health. So that's just a little bit about the workshops we do. We do have versions of a talk as well that we do for different communities, libraries, family resource centres, and whatnot. But again, you can email us if you need more information. But our website is mentalhealthireland.ie. And the last slide is just a thank you for sticking with us, and apologies for the technical difficulties at the start because we got jumped in and jumped out. So I just appreciate all of you joining this webinar. Again, like I mentioned, it will be recorded and is recording for the website Mental Health Ireland. Thanks to Conor and Bill for sharing their thoughts, insights around men's health. Much appreciated. I really enjoyed facilitating and hosting this webinar. But yeah, I'll leave it there. I think there's something in the Q&A button there. I'll just stop the share. Conor, if you want to give a final word there. Or
no, just thank you, Cillian, for facilitating, and thanks for everyone participating. And thanks, Bill.
Yeah, thanks, William. Bill, I'll pass over to you, and then we'll say our goodbyes. All good, Bill? Yeah, thanks, William. Chat to you soon at the next webinar. See you soon. Bye-bye.